Hello, welcome to the Kitchen Spy. If this is the first of my videos that you've seen, my name is Kate and I do recipe videos as well as food hauls and meals of the week and the odd other video as well. I'm not a vegetarian, although actually the last two recipes, this one included, I've done is a vegetarian recipe. I think it's just how it worked out, and I do like to make sure that we have some meat-free days during the week. What I would say is that if you are looking for vegetarian recipes, I follow a really great channel where the lady there called Kerrie does vegetarian recipes, and I'll link the channel down below, and her name is Kerrie Jervis. So she's a real vegetarian guru and I am not. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video for vegetarian chili, and let's have a look at the ingredients that we need to make it. So there's a fair amount of ingredients, but you can be really flexible depending on what vegetables you've got in. So what I've got here is a tablespoon of tomato puree. Then I've got some dried herbs, and I've got 1 teaspoon of paprika, 2 teaspoons of cumin and 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I used hot, but you can use whatever you like. Then I've got 2 chillies here. I've used 1 red and 1 green, and I've left some of the seeds in because we like things quite spicy. And then I've got 2 celery sticks. They are just chopped into small pieces, and I've also deveined them by taking the strings off. Then 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, and because this is a vegetarian recipe and gluten-free, I've used this, which is chipper Worcestershire sauce, and it is actually it's suitable for vegetarians. There's no anchovies in this one. It's also gluten-free. Then I've got 4 cloves of garlic, and these have just been crushed in through a garlic press. Then I've got mushrooms, and if you're a mushroom hater, you can leave these out. I've got about 100 grams of mushrooms just chopped up. Then I've got 3 peppers, and I've just used them for the colours really. So I've got red, green and yellow. Then a couple of large carrots chopped into smallish chunks, and then 2 large onions, and I've actually done 1 red and 1 brown onion just to make it more interesting. 2 tins of chopped tomatoes, 2 tins of green lentils, a can of black beans and a can of sweetcorn, and also about 400ml or a pint of stock. And you can use whatever beans you want to in this. You don't have to stick to this recipe. So over in the pan, I've just got a fairly large pan here, although as you see later on I should have probably used a larger one. Anyway, I am spraying some spray oil in there because obviously that reduces the calories. So I use 10 sprays there, which is 20 calories. And then I'm just popping the onions in, and I just want to fry those off until they're soft and lightly browned, and you can make them as brown as you want to. So here they are after probably about 15 minutes, and then I'm just adding the garlic in. And what we're doing at the moment is just building up the flavour base, and really this is important, and then whatever vegetables you put in later take on these lovely flavours. So the garlic's gone in there, and I've just put the chilli in there as well. And I'm just going to give this a really big stir around just to make sure that everything's mixed up. At this point, when you're cooking anything like this, if you've got pokey chilies, it kind of gets in the back of your throat, but it's all a good sign for what's going to happen later on. Then I'm just putting the celery in, and again just mixing everything through. Just to make sure that everything is coated in the flavours that we've got in there so far. And you don't have to use celery if you don't like celery, and literally you can use any vegetables you want in this. And then the next thing we're going to do is pop in the dried spices. So I've got the chilli, the cumin and the paprika here, and I'm just going to move those around. Now, because I'm using only a very small amount of oil, sometimes it gets too dry when you're at this stage because there's quite a lot of powdery ingredients. So what I do then is just put a splash of stock if I'm using stock in a recipe. But if I'm not using stock, you can just put a splash of water in as well. And that just helps to make sure that we're cooking those dried spices through, because we don't want them to taste raw in the end recipe. Then I'm adding in the Worcestershire sauce, and that of course does the same thing, adds a little bit of liquid and steam to the mixture and just helps us to cook this lovely flavour base. Then I'm adding in the tomato puree and just mixing that through, and you can imagine just how strong that flavour base would be if we had a taste of it now. I wouldn't recommend it. And so we just want to fry this off for a bit just to make sure that we get the flavours all the way through all of the ingredients, and this frying off really does make the flavour base delicious. So I'm just adding my vegetables here, and as we saw earlier I chose to use carrots and peppers and also mushrooms, but you can use whatever vegetables you like. In fact, when I was preparing the vegetables for this, I got a couple of leeks out of the fridge, was going to prepare them, but I realised fairly quickly that I hadn't got much room actually in this pan. It's a good job I didn't do the leeks. But I'm just seasoning it really well with salt and pepper, mixing it all through. And then the next thing we need to do is add the tomatoes and the stock. So I'm using canned tomatoes here because it's just so convenient, and this recipe really is quick and so easy as well. I've used canned lentils as you saw, but you could obviously use dried lentils if you wanted to. So I added both cans of tomatoes, and I'm doing what I always do here, which is just rinse out both of the cans just to make sure that I get all of the tomatoes out of the can. I think that's the right thing to do. You don't want any of the lovely flavour left in there. And then we just add the rest of the stock, and then we just cook that down until the vegetables are cooked through, and obviously the carrots are going to be the thing that will take the longest in this particular version of the recipe. So after it's bubbled for quite a while, I'm just going to test to see how we are with the carrot, and you want to catch this so that the carrot is just under, because we're then going to add the rest of the ingredients that are already cooked in their cans. So really they just need to be warmed through and given a chance to take up some of the flavours. So I'm adding in the lentils, and I've rinsed them, and if you are adding dried lentils, obviously cook them first if they're green lentils, but if they're red lentils you can just add them at the same time that you add the tomatoes. So mix in all of the lentils through, and this pan is getting very, very full now. And then again with the sweet corn, just adding the sweet corn in and mixing it through. And I would normally for this recipe use baby sweet corn and just chop that into little roundels, but they hadn't got any in Tesco, so I used a can of sweet corn, and it just adds a lovely sweet flavour, unsurprisingly, but it also adds a lot of colour as well. Using black beans here, but you can use any beans that you want to. I suppose the traditional thing would be to use kidney beans, but I like black beans because they're smaller and they mix through the mixture better, I think. So yeah, just mix the beans through and then leave that to cook until you're satisfied that it's all ready. And you can see there it's quite a thick mixture, and that makes it really meaty and unctuous when you cook it. And this makes 8 really generous portions and is so easy, and it freezes really well. So here's what we served it with. So I served a portion with some rice. I sprinkled a little bit of cheese on the top, and if you need this to be vegetarian, obviously check that the cheese is vegetarian. And I also served it with a little salsa made up of tomato, cucumber, chilli, coriander, red onion, and I just tossed that all through with some salt and pepper and some lime juice. And then I served that with a little wedge of lime just to squeeze over the top. So as I said earlier, this made 8 of these portions. So I've frozen 6 portions. I freeze them in batches of 2. So that's a whole meal for us in our family when we want to use it again. And I will leave all the recipes, the recipe, not all the recipes. I'll leave the recipe and the ingredients down below so that you can make it if you want to. And if you do make it, please let me know how you get on. It is so low calorie. In terms of calories, the chili itself is 176 calories per portion. Obviously, if you have a bigger portion or you use less out of the entire batch, less portions, then you'll need to proportion that properly. But it's 176 calories for the portion I had here. And then altogether with the rice, the salsa, the cheese, that all came to 407 calories. So it really is a really good value meal and so tasty. I was actually going to put some Doritos on the side of this as well, just to add a bit of crunch, but I forgot to do that, is the truth. But at least I didn't have to count the calories for them. So yeah, that's it. That's vegetarian chili, and like I say, you know, use whatever vegetables you've got. I mix it up all the time. I sometimes use cauliflower, broccoli, or whatever I've got in, green beans, if I've got those, whatever. It's a really, really flexible recipe. It's one of our favourites in this house, and it's so tasty, and it actually gets better with age as well. So I made this actually the day before I served it, and I also froze some, as I said earlier, and when you eat it after it being frozen, it is most definitely better than it was. That makes it sound like it was very nice. It was nice, and now it's nicer after it's been frozen. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this recipe. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do give it a go, please let me know, and either in the comments or whatever, let me know, or send me a picture over on Instagram, or tag me in your photo on Instagram. I'm over on Instagram at Kitchen Spy. That's linked down below as well, so if you want to follow me over there, that would be great. If you did like this recipe, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps the channel. And also, if you are a subscriber, thanks so much for your support. And if you're not yet a subscriber and you feel like you might want to subscribe to this little channel with food hauls, meals of the week and recipes, then that would be great to have you on board. Thanks so much for watching. You take care. Bye bye.